July 21, 1999. Huntsville, Alabama. A NASA engineer is staring at his monitor when lines of code start vanishing. Someone's inside their network right now, and critical files for the International Space Station are disappearing. For 21 days, NASA was forced to keep those life support systems offline while the ISS orbited without its core digital support. But NASA wasn't the only target. Simultaneously, at the Pentagon, classified emails were being siphoned, nuclear defense protocols downloaded, and military passwords were captured. The agencies were certain this was a sophisticated operation conducted by a foreign operative or a hostile state. They were dealing with a high-level national security threat. The attacker, however, made one crucial amateur mistake. He logged in directly from his home IP address. The FBI traced it to a residential address in Miami, expecting an elaborate terror cell or foreign spy. Instead, they kicked down the door to find a 15-year-old kid in his pajamas, still seated at his computer. This is the story of Jonathan James, the youngest person in U.S. history to be convicted of cybercrime. We'll explore his journey into the early days of the digital age, where a curious teenager exposed America's deepest digital vulnerabilities. Jonathan proved that the greatest threat to national security wasn't a physical weapon, but merely a few lines of malicious code. Jonathan James discovered computers in 1989 at age 6 when his programmer father brought home a PC. Within months, he had mastered the machine and was asking questions his father couldn't answer. By age 8, he cracked his first password, bypassing the parental controls meant to limit his screen time. When his father confiscated the computer as punishment, Jonathan executed his first major hack. He broke into Palmetto Middle School's grading system and changed his C in math to an A. He printed the modified report card and used it to demand his computer back. His father recognized the code as SQL injection, a technique most college programmers hadn't mastered. Their kid had just executed digital blackmail. Online, Jonathan took the name Comrade, absorbing techniques like buffer overflows and packet sniffing in the shadowy corners of IRC hacker channels. His first real practice target came in February 1999. Bell South, the telecom giant. He found an unpatched server, slipped inside, and navigated through customer databases and billing systems. He downloaded nothing and changed nothing, but left a single line in a log file that administrators missed for 8 months. At 15, Jonathan found school pointless when he could reprogram reality. He studied declassified NSA documents and collected zero-day exploits while his classmates worried about driving. Late one June night, he found his ultimate prize, an unsecured server with a .gov domain tracing directly to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. The date was June 29, 1999. Jonathan's scan confirmed that NASA's security was weaker than his high school's, with open telnet ports and simple root passwords. It took him only 17 minutes to gain root access on 13 interconnected machines using a simple buffer overflow exploit. These compromised systems managed the ECLSS, or Environmental Control and Life Support Systems, for the International Space Station. This code regulated everything that kept astronauts alive in orbit. Jonathan initiated the download, pulling the entire 38-megabyte source code base over his slow 56K modem. The transfer took 2 hours, giving Jonathan the complete keys to the ISS life support system. 8 days later, NASA finally spotted the anomalies and traced the intrusion back to the custom rootkit. The security administrator made the costly call, "Shut everything down, now." NASA engineers disconnected 43 servers and moved critical operations to isolated backup systems. For 3 weeks, the International Space Station operated on emergency protocols while NASA scrambled to verify 3.2 million lines of code. The cleanup cost the agency $1.7 million. Jonathan, meanwhile, studied the stolen ECLSS code. He found it riddled with errors and poor coding practices. Frustrated, he posted on IRC that NASA's million-dollar software looked like a college group project. This led to the fateful challenge. If NASA is this weak, imagine the Pentagon. The target shifted to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, or DTRA. In August 1999, Jonathan targeted their data hub in Dulles, Virginia, finding a Cisco router with an outdated operating system and 14 known vulnerabilities. He exploited a flaw that the agency had failed to patch for 3 years. The Pentagon's nuclear defense network opened like a cheap padlock. Jonathan deployed a custom packet sniffer across DTRA's network backbone. For 4 weeks, every data packet, including classified emails and login credentials, copied itself to Jonathan's server. He captured over 3,300 classified emails and nearly 1,900 unique passwords, including credentials for personnel inside the Pentagon's earring. Using these, he accessed files on North Korean missile capabilities, biological attack contingency plans, and nuclear submarine communication protocols. The most sensitive find detailed the location of vulnerable warhead storage facilities in Kazakhstan and transport schedules for weapons-grade uranium. A 15-year-old in Miami knew more about America's defense posture than most generals did. Crucially, Jonathan never sold or leaked this intelligence. He created a folder called Pentagon Trophies, encrypted it, and simply kept it. On his IRC channel, he posted one single sentence from a memo, including the top secret classification marking, proving he had reached the highest levels of American defense. On October 29, 1999, a DTRA security analyst finally noticed the subtle, consistent patterns of data duplication in the router logs. Her report triggered Flashpoint Alpha, the Pentagon's highest cybersecurity alert. The FBI investigation traced the intrusion through 17 proxy servers across 9 countries. Jonathan made his one crucial operational security mistake. He occasionally connected directly when testing exploits. On November 14th, investigators found 3 seconds of direct connection traced to IP 2493.41.106, registered to his family in Florida. The FBI realized they weren't chasing a foreign spy, but a gifted child with an IQ of 159. They watched him bike to school and found that he once fixed the school's entire network in 20 minutes after administrators locked themselves out. They realized he treated national security like a video game. The arrest team executed the warrant on January 26, 2000. They found Jonathan seated at his computer, headphones on. He turned, saw the agents, and said simply, "I wondered when you'd show up." During interrogation, Jonathan cooperated fully. He provided a complete technical breakdown of his methods, walking agents through exploits they didn't know existed. Agent Anderson later testified that Jonathan taught them more about their vulnerabilities in 6 hours than their security audits found in 6 years. In September 2000, Jonathan stood before Judge Barry Garber, the youngest person ever facing such severe cybercrime charges. The prosecution detailed the $1.7 million in damages, but also noted his cooperation. Judge Garber delivered a landmark sentence: 6 months in federal juvenile detention and a ban from recreational computer use until age 18. Crucially, Jonathan was also ordered to brief federal security teams about his methods, essentially becoming an unwilling consultant to the agencies he'd violated. The sentence aimed to redirect his genius toward constructive purposes. While incarcerated, Jonathan wrote an essay titled Trust Architecture: Why Humans Are Always the Weakest Link, which later became required reading at the NSA's National Cryptologic School. Jonathan struggled after his release, working at a Radio Shack and selling technology he couldn't touch. His story should have ended with a reformed citizen, but in 2007, when TJX Companies was breached, investigators immediately suspected Jonathan despite having no evidence. The constant pressure, surveillance, and assumption of guilt finally broke him. On May 18, 2008, Jonathan James took his own life at age 24. He left a note stating, "I have no faith in the justice system. Perhaps my actions will send a stronger message to the public." Jonathan James became a casualty of the very system he tried to improve through disclosure. His tragic legacy, however, lives on in every security patch and penetration test today. It serves as a reminder that proper patching and robust security protocols are vital to fighting cybercrime. The FBI never cracked the folder he encrypted: Pentagon Trophies. Somewhere, on a seized hard drive in an evidence locker, sits classified defense information protected by a dead teenager's password. The agency protecting America's nuclear arsenal was outsmarted by a 15-year-old, And in death, Jonathan kept their secrets. Jonathan's story inspired a new generation of teenage hackers, proving that raw digital talent can topple giants. Next time on The Digital Sleuth, we examine the teen who, at 17, pulled off one of the biggest social media scams in history by hijacking the Twitter accounts of Barack Obama, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates simultaneously.